the only thing that got me to that was, well, I really have no choice. It's either this for the rest of my life or what, really? So I might as well try it. Truly, that's what I came to. I might as well try it. And I know a lot of us sit there and say, well, we didn't have love, we didn't have support, we didn't have friends. So, fuck everyone and fuck this and fuck that. If you choose to do that, that's your choice. But otherwise, you meet it with, well, I either let it swallow me or I just do it. I just keep setting the boundaries, knowing what I deserve, who I want in my life, but also who am I as well when it comes to other people, who am I to friends. You take the self journey. That's really what I'm saying. The bridge is the self journey. The Daily Humans Podcast welcomes you. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nina.
Ashley. We were in a jazz band. We would be fabulous. You would, though. Your voice is, oh, geez, your voice. You definitely have a past life as a jazz singer.
Ooh, I love that. Let me have my moment. Let me start spreading the news. There's a new episode today. I know you want to be a part of it. The Daily Humans. These vagabond shoes are longing to stay. Do you know I can do a good Shaggy? I can do a good Shaggy. Do you know Shaggy? Please let me know. Yeah.
Not personally, but yes.
Mr. Bombastic, been a fantastic. Yeah.
That'll be our intro.
Yeah. It's a Mr. Bombastic in a fantastic. It's a bit of whoa, romantic, really fantastic. Like, I can do that. I tried. Yeah.
Wow.
My special talent. Shaggy, if you need a backup singer, if your voice gives out, just give me a call.
I always knew you had the gift of multitasking / jack of all trades.
Thank you.
Always knew it. Yeah. Since birth. When she came out that birth canal, she had a guitar in one hand and a flute in another. She whistling Dixies as she was coming out, like, ah, and then she saw Earth and she's like, oh.
I definitely understood something different there. Whistling what? Whistling who?
What did you think I said? Let me guess. You thought I said do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Whistling who? Whistling what? Whistling a D, a I, an X, a I, E?
No, I said whistling Dixies. But that's funny that you heard the D. Well, it's a technical Mercury retrograde issue because Mercury is microwaving.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're blaming any issues on. So if I become fuzzy, my camera goes out, you don't hear me at certain points. We're in 3 different Mercury retrogrades. So honestly, let's just all stay in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Stay in bed.
Yeah.
Yep.
How have you been managing the last when did it start? Like last weekend or something, if I remember correctly, the Mercury retrograde. How have you been moving through it?
Well, on today's weather forecast, honestly, the one thing I've noticed the most is just the typical technology issues. 100%. My phone, if my phone and my speaking as well has been another issue too. So 2 things. But my phone, if it had a diaper, it would have shitted quite a lot in it because it's been shitting itself. I had to switch it off and switch it back on at least 3 times when Mercury retrograde started. And the one in Leo, may I just say, Mercury retrograde in Leo, I think it is, yeah. And then I was doing the promo. I was doing something for the podcast. Yeah. And some of the apps like Kakao Talk, which is where we talk on as well, just kept crashing. They just kept crashing. So here's me trying to send things, do voice messages, and it just crashes. I'm trying to listen to Nina speak and it crashes. I literally had my phone sitting on the desk listening to Nina. All of a sudden, she goes, and cuts out. And I'm over on the other side going, and what happened? What happened?
Oh.
I didn't even realize that the whole app has crashed. And you know what the worst thing about Kakao Talk is? You can't fast forward to where you are at. You have to re-listen to the voice message from the start.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But sometimes, especially when I'm so far in, I'm like, dude, come on, I need to reply. I want to say something. You know, that's probably one of the worst things that they don't have as a feature is
Yeah.
allowing you to. So you know what I do? Just as a little tip for anyone else that has Kakao Talk, I save it into my files and then I fast forward it to where we were at and then kumbaya. Just a little tip. Yeah.
I wish I could download them. I can't. It doesn't even give me the option. So I don't, must be like a Europe thing. I don't know. I gotta listen to it all over again. I live in Germany, which is like the magical land of disappointment, hard work, and ego.
Every new thing she tells me about where she lives feels like it's not even on this planet at this point.
Yeah.
They don't even have grocery delivery. And I could just see a comment saying, we don't either. Well, then your country's added to that list as well.
Well, there are, I believe, grocery deliveries starting now, finally, but it's only in like main cities. So if you live in the outskirts or in the boonies or in the suburbs, forget about it. I think major cities like Berlin and like Hamburg, they probably have that if you live like downtown as well as delivery. We have one as of like this year, we have one delivery service that delivers where I live. And I don't live in the middle of nowhere. Like I live in the suburbs and one delivery service where you can get food, not groceries, but and if I go on a rant, I will be here until next year. But yeah, it was just a few minor inconveniences that are major inconveniences here in this country.
A lot of our delivery services started in 2020 during COVID. And so it's been 5 years. So if Germany is just implicating this now, what are you going to do in the next 5 years, Germany? You're going to wait for 10 years until the next big thing that everyone else is doing, then you start doing it? They're trying to be like, look at us, we're cool. Like we're not going to take the idea. We're going to wait like 20 years and then we'll
Yeah.
implement it. Oh, we're all now building our houses with hay. No, mate, we're going to wait 20 years and then we're going to do it too, like the rest of you. Yeah. Yeah.
If I may say something, I think I just forgot it, and that has me irritated. No, but it's your comment about hey that threw me off. And if for anybody, what is Ashley talking about? Just long story short, it's a long thing, but there was a house renovation recently with somebody that I know of, and they discovered there was no insulation. It was just hay in the walls. So eco-friendly, I guess. But everything here, even with movies, come out like several months later. So there's a movie out right now that I would love to watch that's out in the Netherlands that's like 30 minutes from where I live. But it'll be until the end of August until it comes out here, 2 months later. And in early 2000s, if a movie came out in America, it came out in Germany 6 months later. So you had to wait 6 months until the movie came out in this country.
So basically, Germany is always going through a Mercury retrograde. Always.
Also, this is what I wanted to say because you said the pandemic. During the pandemic, because a lot of people here don't have Wi-Fi or even internet access, even sometimes phone service. There's a lot of areas that are not in the main city that don't have access to those things. Teachers had to bicycle schoolwork to their classmates because there was no way of the students to get them that didn't have internet access or computers and laptops. So they started implementing now in schools that every student needs to have a laptop just in case. But obviously Wi-Fi is still an issue. So AI, but
homework,
no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, homework is definitely important during the pandemic. 100%.
I just imagine you are a teacher, you love what you do, you're already on the underbelly of the world because nobody appreciates teachers the way that they deserve to be treated because they're literally teaching the next generation of human beings on this planet about life, aside from parents. And you have to also now drive or ride a bicycle to every single student in your class to get their paperwork and their homework and all of that because there's no other way for them to get it, and it's too slow to go through DHL. So 21st century, my friends, welcome.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah,
No,
terrible.
thank you.
Yeah.
So is this, the issue with Germany right now, is that a part of your Mercury retrograde so far? Oh, no, wait, that's an always thing. So I'll say no. I'll take that back. How's your Mercury retrograde going?
It was going well. It was actually going quite decent. I've had a few people try to pop back up in my life where I'm like, why am I still in your contacts? But aside, it's just the technology. The technology, that's the main thing, as per usual. My camera crapped itself a couple times before we hopped on here today. And so, yeah, I was like, out of all the places and times that we could have chosen to record this episode, we do it on a Mercury. We should know better. We should know better. But then again, it's like what, 4 weeks? A Mercury retrograde, sometimes longer. We can't like not work during one. So just gotta have to deal with the tech issues.
Yeah, unfortunately, when the scheduling falls on it, the scheduling falls on it. So you do what you can, you make do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we were physically put into a predicament, not Nina, my brother and I, we were put into a predicament where we had to figure it out because technology, we just couldn't rely on it. But we figured it out. So you do what you can. It's like it adds just an extra layer of survival. It's like, what you guys can do with another layer, and here it is.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like you have like Sims or something, and I haven't played Sims in ages, so if I get something wrong, don't come at me, people. But like if you play Sims and then all of a sudden you're like God, you're like their God, and you're like, you know what? Would make their lives so much more complex and enriching and grow their character if we just started hailing down pizza slices. And so now you go about your day. You have to deal with the world and this crisis and the economy and yourself and the inner and internal worlds. And now pizza is flying from the sky. Everywhere is pizza. Your cars can't handle it. Can't handle it. Like people are getting covered in tomato paste and sauce and pepperoni and all types of stuff. And here you are trying to dodge pizza slices from the sky. It's just, spicing it up a little bit.
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Pizza. Imagine if we could have that. I mean, I feel like the world would smell because it would start rotting and go moldy. But still, yeah, I'm marinating. I'm marinating in the thought. Yeah,
No
in
more
the
world
tomato
hunger.
sauce. True. So, Nina, what would the people that profit off that stuff do if world hunger is solved?
I'll just have to create another war, I guess.
Yeah, true. Jeez. That's not the topic of our episode today either. FYI.
Well, isn't it like isn't daily life like a little internal war with self every single day? Either you're going out there trying to do better for yourself, or trying to hold yourself back from punching people in the face who have the audacity to be who they are. It's just like, I feel like there's a type of war that's constantly going on, and it's on a mental aspect within reality. What we are talking about today is the daily, well, actually it's more so than that. It's just going from surviving to thriving. That's today's topic of conversation that we wanted to talk about and like converse with you guys. Our little journeys where we're at within that. We typically do like occasionally like check-ins and stuff where we're at in life, what we're currently dealing with, what's been popping up. And this has been popping up. It's popping up. We wanna let you know. Surviving to thriving. We're gonna tell you how we're rocking it.
This is going to be our intro. That's going to be our intro. We'll combine it with the shaggy, the jazz, and that. 3 different parts, 3 different sounds. Bam.
So
what a way to start the episode. Yeah. I would love it. Click on the episode and you hear some jazz and you're like, oh yes. And then you go to shaggy, oh my gosh. And then you hear that and you're like, wow, remix. It's like 3 different emotions in one. I think that is a real gift when you're able to create like 3 different emotions at once. So you're a very gifted gift from the universe.
Thank you. I always knew my special moment would come one day.
It was already here way before you even saw it, my friend. Way before. She sang me, okay, I still have the recording on this. There was one time when we were recording and it froze. So then she started singing. So I could still see her, but I was frozen and I wasn't like obviously present in the recording, but I was just watching her and she started singing. And I'm looking at her going, and I'm like, girlfriend, this could be a child's bedtime song. Because I was sitting there thinking, this is like a meditation through song, through sound. It was so, if any of you have heard, like, you haven't heard it. If any of you were to hear it, you would understand what I'm saying. You really need to do meditation videos because even you just singing is like a harmony that makes me feel like I'm on a fluffy cloud and I could sleep for 10 years and wake up refreshed. Yeah.
Okay. If that's what you guys want, that's what you guys get. So next, what the
collective is. It's about what I'm saying because
what Ashley wants.
I will tap into the collective right now. Yep, they want you to. See, you don't need to wait for them. You just go for it.
All right, got it. Next, maybe I'll do like a whole like little surprise drop of a few videos here and there, either on our socials or on YouTube, and I'll just do like a journey through music. That's what I'll call it, episode 1. And we'll start with Shaggy, but we'll make it like meditation, and I'll do like impressions of different singers, and we'll do like meditation music as well, just to round it up. And it can be humor and peace at the same time.
You know, there's not a lot of moments in my life where things just make my year. But yeah, this really just Happy New Year already. I think I'm done for the year. I think it's all good now. Merry Christmas. We're there already. I mean, she's wearing red, so we're already here. Santa Claus is coming, Santa Claus is coming. You can hear Mariah Carey defrosting. Santa baby. No, what did she sing again? What did she sing again? The popular song. All I want for Christmas
is you.
is you. I can just imagine people listening to this right now and going, really, guys? It's a couple of months away. It's still far away. Stop. Sorry, but also not sorry as well. Yeah. Straight face. No laughing, no blinking, no joy of any kind. We are fail. It's already done. We might as well just stop.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't do it. Yeah, like Nina said, we're talking about surviving to thriving. Just to give a little quick analogy on what that even means. Because obviously, do you want to start telling your story once I give a quick?
You go.
No, I think you should start. Last time we had no, you don't do.
Just throw me under the bus. But this is the reference where you go.
That's right. That's right. I don't know if you know this, but I'm like triple Aries, so I technically win that. No.
Well, whatever. I'm a Leo moon. I'm a Leo rising. You're the Leo moon.
Well, we're in Leo season, honey. So.
Okay. Well, I'll take the lead. Okay. Well, I think the best way to start, because I did think about this a little bit before, is just surviving to thriving. That can be such a broad topic, and I'm sure you guys have heard of it before. I certainly have had. And I guess for me personally, it starts off at the point of you clarifying what thriving means. To me, thriving is connected to the same kind of energy as success. And everybody will operate differently depending on what thriving means to you versus what it does to somebody else. And it'll, fluctuate. Today might be a different thriving, tomorrow another. And whatever you kind of like envision for yourself to be your success is what I personally connect to my thriving. So for me, that looks like having a peaceful life, acting as my own person, being my own individual, making my own choices, walking in truth with who I am, and also aligned with my personal goals and the things I would like to experience and achieve in life. So surviving on the opposite spectrum of that is, I think we kind of all have like a universal definition of that. It's just in my day-to-day life, surviving kind of looks like having to deal with other people's emotions, having to place boundaries, having to deal with living in an environment, whatever that means. For me, it's not just people, but also location, the things I do day to day life that are not aligned with my highest self and are stripping me in a lot of different ways. I think now I am at a better place with my day to day life. So surviving has gotten a little bit better, but there are still survival modes that get activated than where I used to be. Survival used to genuinely mean every single day I have to fight for my life. Every single day I have to make sure that I eat something, that I'm safe physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that I'm not in danger. And so I needed to give that quick analogy because I think surviving to thriving can be a bit commercial, but in its essence, if we try to dig deeper and seek its authenticity or seek its root, what does success and thriving mean to you? What does survival look like to you? And this is where I was at with that. So going on to where I'm at right now with it, it's a little bit difficult. I'm not going to lie to talk about this because I'm not quite sure where to start off. But I guess right now I'm finding myself being faced a lot with and Ashley, you and I have talked about this before, where you have these ideals, you have goals, you have visions for yourself in your life, and you're not necessarily in an environment or surrounded by people physically that are either happy for you and want to support you, or are actively trying to just kind of like, wow, you're just a dreamer. You're always, your head is always in the clouds. And that's what I'm currently facing. I've had a lot of, I'm not going to say unfortunately, it is unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world for me at this point anymore. I've had a lot of people let me down. I never really felt like I had a lot of support in the way that I personally needed to achieve my goals. And it kind of set me off track in a few different areas of my life for a long time. And so now I think piggybacking off of the episode with my birthday, if you guys watched that, where I was just kind of talking about how I want to be my own person. I don't want to play a role towards somebody else anymore. And I think how women tend to fall into that. I fell into that. I'm right now in a space where I am directly aligning myself with everything that I want. And that comes with a lot of internal opposition. It isn't hostile as it used to be for me, where it's like, well, who do you think you are trying to pursue stuff like that? It's not that internal voice. It's more so like, I don't know anybody in my circle that has these types of ambitions. I, for a very long time, didn't have a role model anymore in terms of who I look up to, who is already in the spaces that I want to be in or would like to be in. So, how do I move forward? How do I move into thriving and out of survival when I don't even know the roadmap? Like, how do I get there? What does that look like for me? And to be honest, I'm still figuring it out. I'm moving along, and I'm having a song in my head right now. It's like, I'm still standing better, closer than I ever been before, or whatever that song goes.
Looking like a true survivor. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a lyric in the song. Mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know
it's a
that.
lyric in the song. Yeah. I think it's like,
Okay.
looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. I think it's like
Mm.
that. Yeah.
Wow, I have to listen to that song then. That's
You
actually
do.
incredible because that's been in my head for like
What
at
a
least a day or
song.
two. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Nina, what a good message of a song to send to you. Dude,
True, true.
love it.
And it's actually that's perfect what you just said. The fact that that's in the lyric is crazy to me because my thriving, to me, if I really sit down and I think about it, is not being a role to somebody else, but also really fully embodying myself. And that includes me being in my child state. And I don't mean in the unhealed version of that. I mean in the what does she love? What are her passions? And how can I as an adult make sure that the things that have remained as a passion, the things that I'm still interested now, that I'm actively pursuing it in my day-to-day life, if not my future, aka career, etc. And so I've aligned myself with what I want to do. I'm aligning myself with where I need to go in order to do what I want to do. But in the meantime, I've been confronted recently with with a lot of the aspect of you can't look towards the people in your life or a past self that don't have the courage to pursue the life that they desire for advice. And also, you can't look to them as a guidance or a role model because they are nowhere near the person that you are now. And I say this with a lot of respect, right? I think sometimes we can outgrow circles and people and environments to the point where it can create a lot of hostility to be around that person. And I don't mean to, be disrespectful to either myself and the people in my life, or anybody that, you guys who are listening, who you feel this way about. But it's just a fact. You can't lean on the same people you used to when you were unhealed, because they're still unhealed and they haven't chosen to move forward. And if you're in that position, I know you know how hard it is to kind of be your own blueprint, to write it, to not have an idol or role model. I think right now there is a person that has aspects that inspires me that I don't know personally, where I'm like, okay, this individual is motivating me to be stronger in who I am, but that's as close as I'll get. There's nobody doing what I want to do. And therefore, I am the sole person to make that path and to figure it out along the way. And the thing is, the more I'm authentically myself, the more I feel like the next step is being presented. So surviving to thriving, in short, just as the opener for this, because I'll probably have more to say once you start talking as well, Ash. It's just right now I'm in a position where I'm realizing I don't have kind of a net underneath me. Like I'll catch myself. I don't need somebody to save me. I don't need somebody to help me. It's not about that. It's more so just the realization, or the re-realization, that you cannot lean on old environments, places, phases, and people and expect to get to where you're going, because you've already outgrown them. You're no longer in the vicinity of wanting to act like those individuals or that individual. And therefore, you kind of just have to be in your own bubble. You can't look outward anymore. You have to continue to dig deep, know what you want, hold on to that, and move forward without any type of wavering. And by wavering, I don't mean like second guessing yourself. I mean just like you can't give up. And just keep taking those steps forward. And what does that look like, and how does that feel? That's what I'm navigating right now. And I'm excited to talk about this, because I know this is something that all of us experience, who are going for more, who are wanting to experience something different than the environment that we've grown up in or been around, or the people that we've been around before. And it can be scary, but I also think it is so precious to have the opportunity to be different than anyone who's come before you, or the environment that tried to control you into being something that you're not. And you're now breaking out of that and saying, no, I'm my own person. This is the life I want to live, and I'm not going to stop. You're not going to take me away from my fullest life. So yeah, you go. Your turn, Tag. You're it.
I love how every time you speak, you sit back and you're like, oh, yeah, I got it. I swear, every time you do it, I'm like, yep, it's like they're solidified, like, I've done good. And you really have. And I want to add to when you were talking about how sort of being around, let's say, people that remain in unhealed spaces, not being able to meet you with, I guess, the growth of your own space. I just wanted to add, I think another form of it too is that people meet you with their own limiting beliefs, which means their limitations on life, their limitations on growth, their limitations on self, their limitations of society and what is possible. So if you're someone that is, let's say, for the first time doing something on the outskirts of what, let's say, majority do in your family, right? Those careers that are within the family circle, they're known within family and they're comfortable, right? Because they're known, they're familiar. When you speak on something and you add that into the circle and it's so unfamiliar to that space, the reactions that you're going to get is potentially, I'm not saying that you will, because people can have limitations but also still support you, but you may be met with resistance because the limitations within their mind is you can't go further than this space, than this circle, because no one else has. So you're not going to go outside this circle. It's the same with friendships and really anyone, honestly. Really anywhere. You can experience an individual limitation space. And then when you have a family and everyone's kind of rippling off the ideology of what is limiting, yeah. And that is, it's not about a fault or a blame on them. We're not speaking in that tone. It's just about the fact of you having distinction between truth and limiting belief, a limiting space, distinction. Because you can be a writer, you can be creative. You can try things that are outside of the circle, even if people inside of the circle have their ideologies on it. They have those ideologies. You can't control that. Let it be and keep rolling.
Yeah.
I hear how difficult it is. And Nina knows this as well. When you hear the words, you can't do it, it's not possible, what about this, what about that, you actually will hear their survival mode come out. That's like the second point that's taken after you hear the limiting belief, which is a part of survival mode. But when people want to really let you know, like, no, this is going to fail, this isn't going to move, this isn't going to happen, da 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 da, like, how is it possible? The world is in the shits, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? What about money? What about this? What about that? You can hear it. They're speaking from their fears, their worries, their ego, their conscious programming. Like, they're speaking from a self space. It's not a bad thing. It's just, we all have internalized our own fears from the outside world, from family, from friends, from every human space possible. This has all been internalized from that. So it's about you, like I said, pulling that apart slowly, right? Distinction. It's not yours, it's theirs. It's not yours, it's theirs. It has to stay with them. Just push it there. Like, imagine, I've said this before on a TikTok video. Sometimes this is how I imagine it, right? When I have like a limiting belief that I know has come from someone else with something, sometimes I've imagined Gandalf, in Lord of the Rings where he fights, I can't remember what it's called, but it's some demon. Um, and he has his staff. You shall not pass, right? I imagine the limiting belief on the other side of the demon, and I'm like holding this, oh, you shall not pass. And it's a bit of humor, but also like distinction. That's the whole point. It's distinction between you, Gandalf, and the demon. You're not the same people. You're not the same character. So it just helps me sometimes to add a bit of humor in there. Sometimes too, I've been like, guards, get it out of my sight. Get it. And I just imagine the guards taking it and dragging it away. Like, it's just a bit of my humor mixed in with, a programmed limiting belief. So I just wanted to add that into it as well. There was something else I was going to add in. Oh, yeah, that's right. I just thought about it. Firstly, you're a fabulous woman. Just to say this, in red. A fabulous woman in red.
Thank you. My goodness.
No, I'm saying red is your color. The day that red becomes your, I'm not going to say it because, it might be a surprise, but the day that red becomes red, I can't wait.
Yeah, thank you.
I was trying to think of how to say it because I don't know if you wanted me to say it or not. So I'm like, no, I'll pivot if I can. Like in Friends, pivot. The second thing that I wanted to elaborate on was the differences between how someone's journey matches with surviving to thriving. Nina has her own analogy of it, and then I have my own analogy of it. So when you hear someone speak on this, just know that if you've heard ours or if you've heard someone else's analogy of it, it's not solidified into their universal experience and that's it. It's a non-linear, which is like our favorite sentence. This is non-linear. It's non-linear. My way of explaining why I use surviving to thriving, even though it does sound very commercialized. And I thought about it too when I put it in my bio. I was like, this sounds like I'm an advertisement from surviving to thriving. Like, it just sounds like a freaking ad. But then I was like, I can't, at the moment, I'm not thinking of any other way to describe this because I can't put from not living to living. Like, that just sounds like something I don't want to use, honestly. So I didn't know any other way. But in all honesty, that's what it is, from not living to living. And yes, I was here breathing and moving, but I was not living. Before I turned maybe 25, no, actually, probably, I'm trying to think of when I actually started to validate living. Well, I'm literally trying to get the date. Not the date, but the actual time frame. Because I remember having the conversation with Nina. I remember telling her, I feel more like I can validate seeing externally and seeing possibility. I remember telling you along the lines of that, but I don't know if it was 2 years ago when I started to say it to you.
Yeah, 2-3 years, I would say.
2-3 years ago. Probably, yeah, 2-3 years ago is when I just started to say to Nina, I can see external possibility for myself, but also with myself, I see possibility within my own space of moving past the way that I used to live, quote unquote, live. And I'm 29, right? So that was only 27 that I started to experience that. So from before, all those years before then, it's just been here. I'm just here, moving through the day, but feeling like I was never present in reality as I was doing so because I didn't want to be. And if you listen to our episodes, I've spoken a lot about my journey of, suicidality. And I even came out with an episode, 19 years of living in a suicidal mindset. I've talked about a lot of that. And that's what this is being in a consistent state of mind of, I don't want to live in this reality. I don't see a future. I hate everything to do with my past. I do not see myself as a human. So what more is there? There's nothing. There's nothing. It's an empty blank space, honestly, and there's no possibility for anything when you're in that kind of space. So my surviving part is coming out of that space and having to create a whole new reality. And I'm talking literally from scratch. Who am I? But even, do I need to figure out who am I? Okay, so like, what do I do? Do I want to do things? Okay, I'm starting to feel a sense of things that I enjoyed, but do I trust them? Can it actually happen for me? And then you're met with your nervous system and your survival mode that's still within the old programming telling you that possibility is wrong. Possibility is scary. Possibility is something you need to fear. So you resort back to old survival. It's a back and forth reality, honestly. I call it the bridge between the old and the new. And I'm walking that bridge really slowly to get to the other side, the thriving side, we'll call it. But yeah, the survival for me comes from nothing. It's the only way I can really describe what it was like, the best way that I can. And then now figuring out what it is to live, really, what that even is. And even things that I thought that we had a purpose, as an example, before I let Nina speak. I thought, hold on, I had hair in my mouth. It was my own hair. Um, I thought purpose was relied on one pathway, but I learned that purpose there's no look to it, it's multiple. depending on obviously your individual journey, if that's what you choose. You know, I've learned a lot as I'm going, and there's things that I fall back on, especially with learning about purpose and realizing that it's not one pathway. You know, it's you learn something and then you see an expansion of it and realize, okay, maybe it wasn't this. So I'm saying this as well to let you all know, for anyone else that you know that's taking this journey, it's not just about solidifying new foundations and building off that. It's literally learning in every aspect of what that means. Falling back to the sides, saying something, and then realizing maybe this wasn't really it. How non-linear that is. So it's to me, it's a big thing. When I say that, it's surviving. Sorry. When I say surviving to living, it's a big thing. Yeah, that's my analogy of it.
It's really powerful. And I thought about what you said as well, you know, where you were at and how you're building it from scratch essentially, and you're figuring it out day by day, moment by moment as it comes. And you reminded me of something, and that is I'm trying to just navigate how much and in what way that I can portray this, because there's so many different angles in which I can touch on the subject upon. But I will just say it like this: I have lived many lives before I arrived at this one. I've been many different situations and many different people as well, and I've met many different people along the way also. And I think if I were to count it, I'm probably on my fourth or my fifth life at this point. And I'm not meaning like in like lifetimes. I mean like in within my own, within this 29 years that I've been on this planet Earth in this reality, you know. And I've had my world be crumbled many times over. I've had many things shatter, many things fall away, sometimes for the worse and not for the better. And when I started, I think like a couple months ago, to really strip away everything that was false in terms of what I want to do with my life and what type of person I want to be. Because I think before I continue that, I was very afraid, and rightfully so. I mean, we look out into the world, we see what's happening, and we want to protect ourselves. And then we also look sometimes within our own dynamics and the people we've had in our lives and the relationships and how they've scarred us. And we are in the state of fear. And like you said, Ash, a lot of people live out of their fear and not out of their passion or their joy. And so a question that I want to ask before I continue going on with me is I try to ask myself this routinely when I find myself stuck: is what I'm saying right now, what I'm thinking right now, am I speaking life over myself, or is fear speaking for me? And that's
Mm.
kind of where I start to be like, oh, okay, this is fear. That's kind of like the first step that I do to differentiate the two, of like, is this actually what's going to happen? Probably not. But let me figure out 5,000 ways that I can presume something to happen so I can try to protect myself from it. And the thing is, life is challenging, life is unpredictable, and it is scary to see the world change and to see darkness kind of, well, it feels like it sometimes, that darkness is taking its foothold on the world and everybody within it. And I try to routinely remind myself of, even though there is a lot of darkness and that's what we're seeing, or that's how people are treating each other right now, there is still a lot of light. And I shouldn't live in defense of the darkness. I should live for my light. And within that aspect, to go and continue what I was saying before, um, I used to live in a state of fear all the time. And in that state of fear, I lost everything that made me, and everything that, all the creative aspects within myself. And I started looking outward to people, places, and things to tell me who I am and what I ought to do and who I ought to be and where I ought to show up and how. And that's how I made myself small. And I had, you know, relationships with people who somehow portrayed that dynamic in one way or another. And now that that's all done with and a new life is beginning, and I am now the one in creative power because I am an adult, I get to decide over my life and who I am and what I want. It can still be scary, but I think for me, with having lived through the experience of living many lives prior and having to rebuild everything from ground up again and again and again, that it's not necessarily easy, but I think I've said it before. I'm going to repeat myself when I say it. It gets easier to fight for yourself when you know you're heading in the right direction for you. And it's so hard to talk about this for me because there are so many different things that I want to say, and it's all coming to mind, and I have no way to articulate everything and make it all cohesive. So I'm hoping that at the end of this, it'll all make sense and it'll all come together like a little multiverse in my head. But it is tough when you're in a position where you're starting off either new, brand new, or for the first time, and you don't know where to go. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what happiness is. You don't know what joy is, especially if you've been separated from that feeling either from a long time or forever. It can be really daunting to be your own person. And for anybody out there, by the way, because I keep hearing this incessantly in the back of my head, well, that's what we're supposed to do. Well, you're supposed to form your own life and it's not supposed to be easy. Like, it's not about it being easy or not. It's about people adding weight to what you're already carrying. You know what I mean? And people don't necessarily need to do that. And so when you are finally taking all this added weight that other people have added on to you off, and you start to walk your own path, yes, it is scary. And yes, for people, this happens in different phases of their lives. So for anybody out there who's like, well, didn't you go to college? That's what college was supposed to be for. Why you guys talk about this now? This happens routinely throughout life. And anybody who's much older than us, I'm sure can attest to this. You're going to have to reinvent yourself throughout your life. You're going to be in different situations with different people. You're going to be a different person in different stages of your life. I am nowhere near who I used to be when I was 10 years younger. I'm so much more evolved from that person. And in that evolvement, and this is another tip I would like to give, is just if you come from a place where instability was the norm and you didn't really have any place to rely on or anyone to rely on or anyone to look, up to or for protection in any way, you have to start implementing into your mind that the future you're building for yourself is safer, more comfortable, and it's not going to be repeat of the past. Because that's sometimes the stuff that'll come up from the nervous system that cycles its way through it within me, is this whole like, I have to prepare for the worst because this is where I used to be. But you have evolved from that moment. You are no longer that person that was initially in that really terrible position in life, in that survival mode. You have evolved through it. You may still find yourself in survival mode occasionally, or maybe even every day, but you've still evolved. You've matured, you've grown, you've learned things from past situations, places, spaces, and people, and you've adapted. And now that you're going towards what you want, to thriving and figuring out what that even means to you, you have to also implement into your mind that place of thriving that you're creating for yourself, knowing exactly where you used to be, will be a lot more comfortable, a lot more safe. The people will be a lot more safe. You will feel safe. And you're not feeling that right now because you're in the middle. Like Ash said, you're on the bridge part. But there is power in being the underdog and being the person that was not believed. There is even power in being underestimated and intimidating. It's funny. quick side rant, how people who are usually the underdogs are the ones that are seen intimidating by others. You just had to. It's a little bit weird because I've gotten that a few times.
Let's go there. Oh, let's go there.
It's a bit weird because if you're the underdog and nobody believes in you, how can you be intimidating? So essentially what you're saying is that you're just scared of their potential because it forces you to realize that you haven't lived up to yours. Is that just the confession here? You're trying to make somebody else feel bad for you not living up to your own potential? And so you have to put other people down from living theirs? There's this beautiful quote. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. It's from The Pursuit of Happiness. When people tell you they can't do something, that you can't do something, it's usually because they can't do it themselves. If you have a dream, you go and you do it. Don't let anybody stop you from achieving it. I'm paraphrasing here, but like that is such a poignant thing because life, I'm going on a rant. I'm feeling it coming. Life is all about exploration. It's all about becoming free, and you're going to evolve and unevolve and go back and forth. And it's just this beautiful act of creation. And this is essentially what I also wanted to add to what you said, Ash. Life is about creation, and you're supposed to feel free. And yes, we have systems and institutions and people who love to stifle that, but that can never be stopped. Creation can never be stopped. That's the essence of everything that is. And so life is going to be hard. Life is going to be tough. And any decision you make, no matter what career it is, let's talk about career for a moment. If you're like, you know what, I want to be a singer, that's my dream. There will be difficulties in singing and breaking into a music career. But if you go and you take all your essence, all your joy, all your energy, everything that you are as a person, and you now become an accountant, not that there's anything wrong with being an accountant. If you want a 9 to 5, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I want to press this. Not everybody needs to be a superstar. In fact, I think it's vital that other people have other roles in life, because if everybody's a superstar, who's going to do the other shit? But anyway, find the thing that you flow in, because if you now take all of that energy and passion that you had over here for the creative thing and you invest it into the analytical thing, you lose yourself. You lose everything that makes you you. And I'm saying this from experience. I used to be, well, I still am, but I don't visualize myself in it as in terms of who I am as a person anymore. But I used to work a lot in very unhealthy, toxic restaurant and hospitality industries. And I was just at the beginning of my 20s when I really just kind of honed in and I tried to figure out what it is that I wanted in my life. I was like, I got to do this just to make money, so I can eventually figure out what I want to do and do that thing. The thing is, the longer you listen, I'm not saying everybody needs to stop working and figure out what their passion is and pursue that as a career. I'm not saying that either. But oftentimes when you're in spaces that you're not supposed to be in, you lose who you are and you get further from the person that you need to be in order to embody the places and spaces that you actually desire to be in. And that's what happened to me. And I became a shell of the person that I used to be. I was nowhere near who I am today. And it was tough because in the process of losing yourself, you lose the dream. You distance yourself from it because you're distancing yourself from you by trying to fulfill roles and expectations for other people and appease other people. Anyway, you lose yourself in the process of putting all your energy towards something that you say is more quote unquote stable. This is a stable job. It's not as volatile as the music industry, I don't know if, and then you have other people, well, there's many artists out there. What makes you think that you get to be on that stage or do what you want to do or be even successful? There are starving artists, and, people try to portray you the worst case scenario of what your situation could be instead of supporting you. But also it starts to feed into your narrative, into who you are, and into your, well, what if this doesn't work out? Okay, I should stay with this job because this is more stable. Honey, if you try for the next 20 something years to maintain in that career, who you are, who you lose in the process is so much harder than braving the distance and the courage it takes to achieve your dream. Because losing yourself will strip you of the meaning of life itself. And it is hard. I've said this to a friend because it's something that I've learned. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what quote unquote safety net job or safety net position or safety net location or the safe people, or not really safe people, but the people that you feel comfortable with versus the people that are actually good for you, that you hang around or you place yourself in. Everything comes with an entry fee. Everything has a barrier. You get to choose with your life and who you are and what admission fees you pay and what admission fees you don't. You can go to every single theme park in the world and spend all your money and all this energy, or you can go to the one you want and actually have fun. Yeah, it might be tough. The road might take longer. It might take a lot. It might be more expensive. I don't know. There might be more difficulties, but it's aligned with your passion and who you are. And the more you pursue the thing that magnetizes towards you or that you feel magnetized towards, the more will flourish from that space, as opposed to using all your energy and space and time and everything towards the thing that you hate just for the illusion of safety. There is no safety. Look around. There's a ton of people right now who are looking for safety in a job, in finances, in relationships. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it works out, other times it doesn't. Sometimes you think you're going to retire by the age of 50, and then you find out you got to work 20 more years because the retirement plan has been extended and you can't retire at the age of 50 anymore because economy is bad. Or sometimes you live in an environment and you have to leave the environment because of war or unhappy circumstances, terrible circumstances. Things happen in life. But if you continue to move towards the things that set your soul on fire and who you actually are and what is aligned with you, you're using your time and your life energy towards what's actually meant for you. And therefore, you're not wasting it. If you maintain yourself in spaces or force yourself into spaces where you're being abused, used, and just discarded, you lose yourself. And that's not 100% all on you. It's very much on society and what we're trained. But you have the capability and you have the power to choose differently. And it's hard, like Ash and I are saying, it is. But I would rather pursue the hard path going towards what I want rather than what I don't. Because worst case scenario, you can always go back to that. You can always go back to the status quo. You may not have the opportunity to pursue what you want to in the near future that is aligned with your passion. Hey, on the opposite spectrum, maybe there is. There's many people who have reached their success much later in life in the fields that they want. So I'm not saying anything is linear, like Ashley has stated, but still, if you put yourself into this situation where your soul is dying, where you're around people who kill your soul every single day, you distance yourself from what you want. You distance yourself from who you want to be because you die in the process of that. And if you're dead on the inside, what is there to life? We've talked about it before with the candle analogy. It's the same thing. You have power, you have strength, you have the capability. And even if it's tough, you get to experience that life if you choose that you want it. You have to choose that you want it. And you don't let other people tell you that you can't do it. You surround yourself as much as humanly possible with people who can support you, who uplift you, who cheer for you. And if that doesn't exist, then keep going. Keep being that person for you, even when it's hard, even if you break down and cry, even if you question yourself and you're like, is this really what is meant for me? Keep going and don't stop. Okay, your turn. You're it. I've talked for way too long.
I think in some form, hearing how I explain survival in the analogy, people come to the context that you're kind of just a zombie existing just in your bed and there's nothing else. I was a human being, like a child is when it started. that was still, doing things and participating and laughing. It's just the connection to life itself and living was dwindling. And I think I was around 9 the first time that it started to really hit such a point where the creativity that I remember having as a child was starting to be forgotten. And, playing with Barbies, associating any kind of expression that you have when you're a child. Like I felt it fly away, but brutally fly. And in all honesty, and I want to say this too, because you hear it in spirituality, you hear it in religion. The common denominator is you have to forgive and you have to let go. And that's just kind of where people end the sentence. And I've thought a lot about that, hearing that throughout my life. Well, the past is the past. You have to let it go. Otherwise, it's going to continue to manifest into your future. And I sat there and I said to myself, well, essentially, other human beings created the spaces that my child self lived in. My child self created from her creativity bubble. You don't choose to go to school during childhood and teenage years. It's a mandatory thing. And someone put that in. Someone else put that in. And then at school, being around other children and other adults, their spaces and what they chose to do added to my space, added to unsafety, added to unworthiness, unlovable, other personal issues as well. Imagine, the best way I can describe it, imagine you're walking through life and you have this bubble around you, right? And you're a child and you're playing hopscotch. And a kid comes in and shoves you down, let's say that, right? What gets added into your bubble? It's like a spark of, let's say, like a black spark, we'll say that, gets added into your bubble, like a shot through your safety bubble. And you're thinking, like, why did you need to do that? And then you remember it. You move through the years and you may remember that situation, right? As life keeps moving and more people keep shooting those black sparks into your bubble, more and more it's building. It's building, it's building. When I was a child, we weren't having these conversations about, regulation, healing, mental health, emotions, human. We weren't having these conversations. So people were doing whatever they damn please, even when you were a child. My child self, and I will speak up for her, I will speak for her whenever I damn well please, was affected substantially by the people that perpetuated authority and safety. Adults who you spend most of your childhood hearing are the ones with the guidance and the wisdom and the knowledge, and you need to respect them. But the spaces that they created was something I had to heal from. What they chose to create, their behaviors as well. You can have it. I've said this so many times. You can have awareness and expansion and knowledge of where people. You can have knowledge and awareness, and I do, of how people get to these certain points, but it doesn't erase what you create. And that's different to going on the journey of responsibility and accountability for self, right? That's a different journey. But every time you step outside and you choose to interact in a projective way towards someone else, you're fueling their bubble with something unless they have the tools to kick that shit out, which a lot of people don't. Not everyone, but the process. of learning how to stay within your bubble and not let that black spark come in. Fudge. Especially when the projection is heavy and in your face. Ma, jeez. I was telling Nina, I'm going to tell this story. I was telling Nina about a time when we're at a Macca's waiting bay. This lady behind, she kept pushing, like she was pushing on the accelerator a little bit and pulling the car forward. And then she must have been braking at the same time because the car was just jolting back and forth. And I'm looking in my rearview mirror thinking, does she need emergency services or something? Because I don't know, is the car having its own little like R&B 90s moment right now where the cars used to do this, but instead hers is like, it's really. And obviously in the waiting bays, the size is for your car and you have to give distance, obviously, because people have to pull out. So I wasn't going to stick the front of my car right at the back of the car in front of me, right? It's there was nowhere to move. It was such a packed night in the Macca's drive-thru. I think it was like a Friday night. Anyway, she gets her meal. She comes up to the side of the car with her window down and then just projects, fully projects with all this anger and gusto. And my brother's in the passenger seat and I'm in the driver's seat and I do not, it's a really rare thing for me to react the way that I did, put it that way. I felt red. I felt like, you know, the red character from Inside Out? I turned into him, the Hulk woman version. I felt the redness in my face, like the rage. She sparked this like release of just, it was like that kind of thing. And afterwards, I said to myself, look, I don't need to react like that because of the energy that it takes from me, but also because when someone needs to do this stuff, they're shitting in their own space and only they're smelling it. But they want everyone else to smell it, you know? Whatever she's going through, but when she needs to react like that, that's a big problem in itself. So my reaction, right, I just keep practicing to remind myself that I am not her punching bag, but I'm not her solution. And whatever you choose to do to other people's spaces is solely a reflection of you because you're actively choosing to do that. But my point is, we're growing up in a society, and I mean, it's still happening these days, but it finds sometimes new molds come in. It's what I've noticed. And I think every generation has this. That's probably why every generation complains about the generations before. Like I'm starting to see the loop and I'm thinking, are we ever going to stop? But that is the thing I'm trying to illuminate is from childhood. There were things installed into my space that took away creativity. And like Nina was talking about, when people come in with their own limiting beliefs and their own ideologies, and like I was saying as well, it's like it's imagine like picking it out, creativity, joy, hope, wisdom. And honestly, if I could put the scene in front of you all when I started to heal and started to reawaken memories, because I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. So I had memory of just trauma. It took EMDR sessions to switch on other memories that actually, you know, were a part of my past that were actually generally, you know, fine, no issues. But it actually took like fully getting in depth to bring those to the surface and a few tries too, because there were walls. There's layers to that shit. Because the spaces that I grew up in, the spaces that I experienced taught me to survive. Other people taught me to survive. And again, it's interesting when people hear this, they go, well, you got to take responsibility too. A child that's been taught that this is the only way to live because everyone else is creating the space for that. And your entire self is now constructed within that. So as you're growing, that's just expanding. And then you're meeting new people that add to it. You're meeting new spaces that add to it and throw shit in, their own shit. In it goes, in it goes. I was probably doing the same thing to other people. Yeah, that's where the responsibility comes in. But I didn't know. And maybe they didn't know either. And I know that. Maybe we're just a full society that doesn't know what we're doing and creating. And I speak about that a lot on my own TikTok, is what you create externally matters more than what we've ever thought. What you create sets the foundations for other people, especially when you're a manager in a workplace. You set the stage for the employees. For the employers. Is it employers or employees?
Employees.
Employees. Yeah, that's right. You set the stage for the employees. The environment that you create either gives them the motivation to do the job or sets them in a space of survival. Because Harry and Larry aren't getting along, the management aren't listening to complaints, this is being ignored, customers are always right, so any kind of bullying or mistreatment is being ignored. Human beings and their spaces created this. I speak a lot, and lately I have been speaking a lot about accountability and responsibility, and that's not subjective to one layering. Accountability and responsibility falls into many, right? But the reason why I say this is because, like I said before, and I'm not going to retract it, people created my old world, and I just continued to live in it because what else could I possibly do? Where else could I possibly go, right? Just to say this as well with people's behavior, the projections that you consistently hear and the mistreatment or the spaces that are only temporary and there's so many conditions or there's manipulation or there's elements of abuse. I grew up with a lot of that and with a lot of those spaces that had the image of safety, but behind the image were the complete opposite. It was a continuation in my own life to be met with those spaces. And honestly, I had no reason to sit here and say that there are good people in this world. None, literally none. There was no reason for me to sit here and say that I trust human beings. Because how do you trust a human being when you've never met a trustworthy human being? What does that look like exactly? How do you trust a safe space if you've never known a safe space? Really? But I had no other choice. When I was crossing the bridge, I said to myself, I know, but I either keep being swallowed by it, by all of this, everything to do with the old world. That's what I'm going to call it, the old world or new world, and there's the bridge. I either let the old world swallow me and continue to swallow me. It's like there's a movie, and I think it's called Old Guard, and there's a scene in the movie and where they arrest one of the women because they think she's a witch because she keeps coming back to life even if she gets injured and she dies, she comes back to life. So what they did was it submerged her in water in like a coffin, and then she kept dying and then coming back to life. She kept drowning and dying and coming back to life, right? That's kind of what the old world felt like, is just continually going through the cycle of being swallowed by it and then still moving, but being swallowed by it again, and moving a little bit, but swallowing, being swallowed by it again. It's just constantly the cycle of that. So even though there's no proof of really anything for me to take that would give me the motivation to move into the new world, The only thing that got me to that was, well, I really have no choice. It's either this for the rest of my life or what, really? So I might as well try it. Truly, that's what I came to. I might as well try it. And I know a lot of us sit there and say, well, we didn't have love, we didn't have support, we didn't have friends. So, fuck everyone and fuck this and fuck that. If you choose to do that, that's your choice. But otherwise, you meet it with, well, I either let it swallow me or I just do it. I just keep setting the boundaries, knowing what I deserve, who I want in my life, but also who am I as well when it comes to other people, who am I to friends. You take the self journey. That's really what I'm saying. The bridge is the self journey. Like you just have to at this point. I just had to. And you start with you. I can't control what happens externally. I advocate for what I know and what I've learned and continue to learn, but I can't control other people's journeys or how other people move and what they continue to do. I can only do this for myself. So I either keep drowning and no one's saving me, no one's helping me, I'm not being shown anything else. Respect feels like a rare commodity, so I might as well give it to myself. I might as well fucking do it because there's nothing else. So that's where it started. The reason why I said that when you think about how people have treated you in the past, when you think about how certain spaces have felt to you or just things that people have done, I know that you can sit in the space of that hurts so much, I'm just going to stay in that space. And I get it. And this is not about a fault. There's no fault to you for feeling that. But the more and more things accumulate over your life and that just kind of stays in that space and you stay in that space and more things add to that space, it's stagnant. Let's be honest, it's stagnant. It's not about validating their behavior. It's just about what is the best thing for you, because living in the old world for me, there's no living, like I said, there was no living there. So what the fuck was I going to do? What was I going to do? Be in and out of a mental health facility for the rest of my life because that's what it was looking like? I couldn't live like that. And people did not get it. I had people that said to me, we want you to heal. We want you to be happy. But what version are you thinking of? Because once that started to happen, once I started to find increments of that and I started to open things up, they completely changed their entire demeanor to that. And it was like, wow, so you no longer want this from me anymore? Why? Because I have a voice now? Because I can show up for myself? Because I can set boundaries? I can speak now? You don't like that I have a voice now? Because I could shut the fuck up before, but now maybe you've been around people that have normalized inhumanity a little too much. Maybe that's one version of it. So yeah, I had people that wanted me to heal, but then you start healing and they're like, okay, I didn't tell you to go that way, just wanted you to be happy. Well, I can't rely on what you think that I need or should be. And I will not rely on anyone else's version of life because if I had heard those versions years ago, do you think they would have saved me? No freaking way. Because even when you hear the versions of life that people speak about back then, it's riddled in their own survival. And it's not about a blame. I'm not blaming anyone, but it is. It's riddled in their own ideologies. You have people that have joy, and that's absolutely fine. But when you're not in that space, it's hard to meet it. And that's reality. I couldn't meet it. I'd be happy for people just to say it. But in truth, there was no malice intent. It's just the fact that I can't relate. I couldn't relate to that. I couldn't relate to joy. But I was not the person to take it away from you. What the fuck would that do? And why would I do that? I know what that's like. So honestly, I guess my advocacy for quote unquote thriving is just to do it for self, even if there's no reason to do it for self, as hard as that sounds. Relying on other people's versions of things and going by whether they're going to validate it or not or see your worth and value or not, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for any of you, but I couldn't rely on that. And I still can't rely on it. No matter what you do, it's not good enough. I'll just say this last thing and I'll let Nina talk. Even when I completed my studies, 4 years of studying, right? I thought for sure I was going to be valued and worthy because I've completed something to do with education. I'm smart now. I'm intelligent. I didn't complete school. And I, again, was put through years of being told that I'm never going to complete anything. I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. Teachers would treat me like I was just the dumbest, really, and would put me in this box of there's no point with her. She's not going to amount to anything. There was only one teacher that actually treated me otherwise. So obviously the programming that I had was there's just no point because I'm too dumb to do anything, to say anything, to be anything. And my worth attached itself to that. And in consequence, I became fearful of achieving and celebration and success. See, it's just like it's a ripple effect that just sparks off from the main thing that was solidified into your space. So when I completed my studies, I thought, yes, like I'm worthy now. People are going to see that I'm worthy. I will be good enough. And then I didn't get that. I didn't get that. It was still not good enough. And then something else happened in my life and I realized, wow, I just did that. Like even me being alive right now, like I'm here, like I said about the healing, I did it. And yet I turned to the people that I thought I'd feel like that connection with this major achievement, and I got nothing. And I realized in that moment, nothing that I will do will ever be good enough to people that never actually cared in the first place. They did care in some form, maybe themselves, they have the same ideation that achievement is never ending. Success is never ending. So it's kind of like you can achieve study, but you need to do more. You can do more than that. So keep going. When you have five degrees, then come to me. Maybe they have that kind of ideology because some people do. When you have a whole list of success, then come to me. When you've advocated here and done this and done that, then I will start to see you. I'm not going to rely on that. I'm not going to rely on the list that you've created for yourself, technically, to validate me existing and living. And I wouldn't want that for anyone else, for any of you. You can't rely on someone else's version of good enough because for some it's not. For themselves, it's not good enough. So they can't meet you with the same reflection of that. So again, just the last thing. Charlotte actually said it in her episode where you come back to self. And this is the thing that I want to bring back to for this. You come back to self, even if it's difficult to be with self. Because it is some days. And I said this to Nina the other day, I'm tired of myself. Sometimes I get tired of myself. Because some days she's tired. Some days you're pulling through so much old programming and old survival. You're trying to pull yourself out of it while validating it, while holding yourself, while dealing with the external world. And you just get fucking tired. Like existing is fucking tiring sometimes, especially when you're trying to create new in a world that holds on to the old, and like you have to suffer and you have to survive. And you're like, I'm trying to get out of that because you talk about suicide statistics. Well, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to do that. And you're like pushing this back on me to survive. Doesn't make any sense, mate. But again, I'd rather be with self because the external world is a reflection of the unhealed version that it is. It's a reflection of the old world. People are healing, but it's going to take time. So that's another reason to just come back to self. Even if you weren't with self before, start with self. Like I said, start with self. You'll find your way through that. However that's meant to go. I don't have the answers for you. I just have guidance. That's all. It's the same with Nina. We don't have answers. We don't give answers. We give guidance, if I can say that for you as well. Unless you have a different outlook, then you're welcome to, obviously.
You're absolutely right. Everything you said. And I honestly believe this is the fight of humanity. A couple days ago, I wasn't going to mention this, but a couple days ago, I was just in the space where I was just like, you know what? I don't think I believe in the Great Awakening anymore. I don't think I believe in humanity getting better anymore because we just keep cycling and cycling and cycling and cycling, and it's just never ending. I don't think we'll ever get there. I think we'll get to the cusp of like, this is wrong. Most people agree, and then we drove by right back into the bullshit. And it I don't know where I stand with that. I still feel very validated within that perspective, to be honest. But at the same time, in real time, I am seeing the effort people are making. I am also noticing people who are older than me, people who are of no longer in the millennial generation, but whatever came before then. I'm not really good with all the ageism names and categories and all that stuff. For me, people are people. But I see it with older people now as well. Like a lot more are more vocally open, are a lot more friendly, are a lot more in their child state, are a lot more open-minded and vocal about wrong and right things happening in the world. Obviously, there's the opposite to that as well. But it encourages me and it lets me know, okay, like the older generation right now that's popping up seems very cool. And this is not what it used to be when I was a kid and I saw older people. People were very strict and like uptight and like weird and stern and not happy. And listen, I'm not saying that other people aren't struggling that appear to be that way, that appear to be happy, but I it goes back to what I said earlier. I will not live my life in defense of the darkness. I will live my life for the light that I am and the light that I have to offer. And I will not let fear speak over me and run my life. I will let life be spoken into me. And for me to continuously, no matter how much it torments or breaks me apart, I know in the end, I will be better off pursuing my path, like Ashley said, listening to self and not what other people and other people's expectations of you are. But listening to self, I will be much better off at the end of the day and at the end of my life, no matter when that is, and it's the only job we have. The only job we have is just to live freely, and we don't need to make it so hard. And yet it is. And it's just going to keep cycling the conversation if I go into why, but it's just I refuse to live another moment of my life fighting people, fighting for my worth, for other people to see it. No, I'm going to stand in my light. And in fact, I actually have like a little quote that I live by. It's, I'm no longer shrinking myself to be more digestible. You can choke. Choke. If you don't like it, don't like it. Walk away. If you have something to say, have something to say. Say it to my face, though. Don't say it behind my back. Because if you have an issue, that's for you to have. That has nothing to do with me. I deserve to live my life in the way that I do, the same way that you do, the same that anybody does. And nobody needs to live in servitude to another individual or individuals. And that's where I stand by. And, hopefully maybe someday we'll reach that point, maybe in my lifetime, maybe thereafter, I don't know. But it has to continue with us because we will never get to a better society unless we better ourselves. And I see it in young people today. I see it in older people today. I see it within myself. And if we want to change anything in the world, I will keep coming back to the same old, and say it starts within you. You cannot go out there and change the world. You have to change yourself first. And we are the product of that. And I see many others doing the work as well. And hopefully, by the time we are at a certain age, life will be a lot better for people that are younger, and even for ourselves and for the earth in its entirety. Until then, we got to deal with AI glasses, creepy people, and deep fakes and ego problems.
Oh my God, deep fake, dude.
Yeah.
People are definitely, from my perception, a lot more open to learning and questioning. Obviously, it's not everyone, but it's enough that it's definitely after COVID, it just kind of went into full throttle mode, in my opinion. And you can actually feel the shift too. But I know online there are conversations that people have become meaner and ruder and a lot more a lot more in a state of apathy. And the thing I want to say is, when you're online, you're witnessing so many people in one space. So yeah, you're gonna see basically it right in front of your face, something that I think has been around for a long time, projection, obviously. But online, you get to sit in the front seat and see it in potentially every video, where there's one comment or there's two or three or even the whole comment section. And let's say that's 1,000 people. You're witnessing 1,000 people that are projecting in a world full of over 8 billion. You're going to come across people that live within these states, teenagers, no matter what the age is. You're going to come across people that choose this. And I just want to say this. It's been one of my greatest learning experiences. I'm not going to say lesson. It wasn't a lesson. It was a learning experience. The people that project online and all that, they have desires. They have wants. They're human beings. So when they make a comment about someone else's, let's say, their looks, that very person wants to experience love. And that's the most fascinating thing, is that as a human being who desires connections from other human beings, you choose to put this out there to the collective, to human beings, about the way they look, and you choose to do that online, and you could choose to create that energy and that space, and yet you want love. You desire love. When you really have this distinction on human behavior like this, you realize just how, what's the word I could use? I guess we think that projection is a difficult thing to put context to, but when you look at it in this way of, at the end of the day, they're a human being. At the end of the day, they're a human being that has all these desires and shit. It takes away the power that their projection has been taught to give. I think that makes sense. I've said this before. We give power to things that should never have been given power to in the first place, because it's coming from a human being. Like I said, it's coming from a human being. I mean, if it was coming from an alien, yeah, we don't need to give out the power either, but it's coming from a human being that has been through whatever on their life journey. It doesn't validate why they're doing what they're doing, but there'll come a day where someone will potentially project on something they love, and they'll respond in the same defense that they make fun of the other people for doing over their trolling behavior. You see the cycle, it's like, wow. But people are moving. People are moving. They're finding their way. It's a learning journey, right? The bridge that I used, that bridge, it doesn't have like bricks with writing on it saying you need to do this, you need to do that. It's figuring it out by you. That's actually how I did it. I'm just going to put it out there for guidance. I started shadow work in 2020. I was seeing a psychologist though, way before then. But when I started shadow work, because I just thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, I asked the real deep questions, the things I've never asked myself before. And I was terrified because I didn't know how I would respond to this. I remember asking myself, who am I? I can't remember what I wrote entirely, but I remember after that going by, what do I love? And sort of just sometimes even sitting there for a while thinking about it. You're touching on, like, I was touching on things that I hadn't thought about for a long time, that had been buried in childhood to survive. I'm bringing up stuff that was wrapped in chains, and I had to unlock. And I still felt really unsafe doing that. Like, I was actually terrified to dive into things that you lock away because they bring hope, or they just bring hope, and hope is terrifying to someone who has never felt it before in safety. So when I did that shadow work, it was just the sole purpose in that moment was for me just to find something. I didn't know what it was, but it was just something that could give me something different from what has always been, And it did. It sparked something big. Just a simple question, too, to some people. And then I started to really continue on from that. And I honestly couldn't believe that I actually asked myself that deep shit. That's why I'm telling all of you, you can be afraid, you can be terrified, you can even cry while you're writing the question, you know? You can even sit there and write a little bit and then stop and then move away for a second and then come back later. You can do anything that you need to. But I think it's worth writing it on the paper. I think it's worth saying it to your psychologist. I think it's worth doing the breath work. I think it's worth doing somatic therapy. I think it's worth even doing it in your own space if that's what you want. Because like I said, for self, however that looks. But that's how I started. I started with shadow work, and then it just built. I faced the things that I felt ashamed of, guilty. I faced things that, I honestly couldn't. I never thought I'd face them. Like, not in a million years did I think I could face this shit. And then I just worked with my psychologist and then used both of those spaces. When I'd bring up stuff, I'd use that space, talk therapy, to help cope with what was coming up. Because, yeah, it did bring shit up. It brought it to the surface because it felt safe to do so. I was giving it space to be heard, to really feel how I was feeling. Like, really, for the first time, not shove it down, not suppress it, to really let it be felt. And that was hard. It took some of the stuff that I faced took me years. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. It is what it is. It made sense. It makes perfect sense. It took me years. And sometimes still to this day, there are some things that I hold space for, but they just have a stronger latch at the moment. But I know that in time, they'll find its way to release, and know that it's okay to let go. We don't need to live like this anymore. And we're not living like this anymore, which is just another part that I want to touch on. God, there is so much to this topic. Like, there's just so much to add to it. And obviously there'll be more. maybe in another episode probably, but when you start off, if you choose to do it this way, there are other ways to do it though. Just want to let you all know it's not solidified to one thing. And if it doesn't work for you, let's say there are other ways. Don't let it go just because something is meeting you with some form of resistance if it is. Maybe you need to try another time. That's probably going to happen. Of course, if you think about it, you haven't done this before. It's not like you have years of experience. And even if you do, there's always room for growth and learning. So take it easy on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself, which I'm a bit of a hypocrite when I say that, but I still know it. So that's a given. I still know it. And Nina reminds me. But as you move forward into this journey, I know that it can just be a sentence and just words, it's easy for you to say because I've heard that before. And I don't go into my life story with people anymore. I used to. I don't do it anymore because if you want to think that way, you're entitled to think that way. If you think that I don't know what it's like, I'm going to let you think that way. But I know damn right what it's like in my own way. And I think, and I will always advocate for the worth of even when you feel the pull back to your old self and the old ways of doing things, which we all fall into sometimes, and which some people just keep living through because it's all they've ever known. When you feel that pull, when you feel the constraint of that, the constraint is just from the familiar. It's just familiar. Even the word, like it doesn't have much power as even I've given it. And sometimes I still do because that's safety, that's survival, is to give the familiar the ultimate power over your next choice. But the old world, as I'm calling it, and the way that things ran, right? If there's misery, if there's no joy, if there's no life, if there's no living within that, it's the one thing that's going to make you believe that it is the only thing that can exist. It's going to latch on. Even when you think that you've bypassed it, even when you think that you've moved so far in the bridge, it might come back or it might find new ways. Because when you do start to see new pathways, it latches on and then creates a new form of thinking for you. You go from you're not good enough to this isn't good enough kind of thing. I've found that too. The change of limiting beliefs, the change in thought processes, because it's the old way of doing things. It's the old way of surviving. So when you take this journey of self, if this is what you decide to do, however that looks, there's obviously more to the guidance that I can share with it. And I will happily support you as you walk the journey, even if I'm not physically there and even if we don't know each other. Right? This guidance, I hope, provides that. But I used to think this was just words. When people say it's worth it, it's so worth it. I'd sit back and go, of course you can say that. Yeah, I had thoughts like that. But I can confidently say that it is for you, so it is worth it. I'll say it like that because that's the truth.
And you're worth it. And also, just to wrap it up, life is the ultimate sculptor of the self. This life is just for you to experience, for you to create yourself as if you were your own masterpiece, because you have nobody to answer to. And in order to be your fullest self, you're going to have to disappoint a few people along the way, and that's okay. Let go of the restraints as much as you can. It's a process, as Ashley has said, even the ones within ourselves. But you got this. You do have a I say this all the time to Ash, and I mean this, there's a whole room and a whole world of people waiting for you to arrive and to meet you. And I'm so excited for you all and for us ourselves as well to arrive at those spaces, and to keep arriving at those spaces for ourselves as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
This was a deep episode, huh?
Yeah, that's the human experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shit gets deep, shit gets funny, shit gets content or grounded or flow, whatever. It's just a mixture. And we are the daily humans, just for a future reference for anyone that's like, oh, we are the daily humans. So it's about the human experience.
Yeah.
And how the human experience doesn't need to be, like how the stuff in the human experience doesn't need to be a reality.
Yeah.
Which is the things we've talked about in alignment with that.
Yeah.
Suffering is not a given. It's not the book of life. That's such a false, that's a false prophet, in my opinion. The book of life. What the fuck even is that? What the shit is that? If people were meant to follow the book of life, then I'm sure every single one of us would have the same journey, wouldn't we? Wouldn't we all be married with children, gone to school, did all the years of school, university, college, and then got married, had kids, worked, retired at the age of 90? That's where they're going to push it up to probably eventually. And then we die.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the spirit world, where the spirit world has none of this capitalistic bullshit.
No. Excuse me. There is a heaven and a hell. Don't forget, there is eternal suffering.
I think hell is here, to be honest.
Nah, I just, I think life is the expression of play. And the more we lose it, the more hostile, not hospitable, hostile it becomes. But we owe it to ourselves to be free and to play and to have fun and to rediscover what that means. But yeah, this is, as always, we say it all the time, but this is an ongoing conversation. If you guys have any of your own experiences or opinions, feel free to share. We'd love to hear it, but there's probably going to be more of this conversation in the near future. So there's just so much.
The journey.
Yeah.
We're both currently on the journey, so
yeah,
you'll hear more. Please do feel free to check out some of our other episodes as well. We have so many talking about different experiences of the human experience, as well as our special guest episodes. Please do check them out. And thank you so much for listening to this episode and joining in the conversation. And until next time.
Au revoir.
Oui,
mademoiselle.